fix something here. This stream brought to you by Gatorade. Where is my... How do I make it so my thing doesn't... How do I allow comments? I want to... See, well, no one's here right now, so I can just experiment. I can just experiment because nobody's here right now. Wait, where's my Discord? There we go. There we go. Oh, someone's here. Pooflinger starring in. Hello, attritionalist. I'm just kind of trying to figure something out. The comments are turned off. I don't know exactly why that is. I'm going to try to troubleshoot that right now. How do I get comments to be turned on? Oh, wait. Are comments turned off while a live stream is going on YouTube? How's it going? Not live chat. Comments. Like comments. Regular YouTube video. Hold on. Let me tell the Discord people. Get some more SARS in here, attritionalist. I don't know why are all the SARS not here? I need more SARS. You know, SAR up. Hold on. Why this? Okay. Only live chat is available. Okay, so it's not supposed to be on. But I think like afterwards it like disables the fucking thing. Man, that fucking annoys me. Anyway, YouTube is half gay. Sometimes it notifies me your stream is starting. Yeah, I'm sure, you know, based on what I talk about, I'm sure my channel is probably not the most algorithmically boosted, you know, and also I probably don't really help myself by using a lot of censorable words. Sorring up, you know, and calling everything retarded. But whatever. I don't know. Maybe Thursday isn't such a great day after all, huh? Thursday's not the best time. I feel like Sundays I get a lot more people join in. What do you think, attritionalist? Do you feel like that's the case? Well, I guess you have me all to yourself. I don't know. Do you have any specific, I don't know, questions or whatever? What's been going on? What's going on in the life of a attritionalist? You know, I like to get to know the 15 people that follow me every now and then. Sup, holy cow? Finally got in. Thanks for. Are you seeing it on YouTube or how do people mostly like come to the stream? Is it like you remember? Oh yeah, at 6:30 he's streaming now, or is it like more? Oh god damn it! Is it more like, you know, you're on YouTube and it's like the notification pops up Sup, Wow Nichan. I'm just like, what the fuck? Discord. Okay, so I should still be doing the Discord notifications. It's all good. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. Um, all right. Whatever. I guess I'm an old man. I don't know how any of this fucking streaming shit works. Hopefully when I get to New York it'll be more streamlined. I know it's a little bit more chaotic right now cuz like I'm very low effort, but I think like once I go to New York, I'm going to put a little more effort into like making everything more streamlined and all this other stuff. I know I'm saying that all and it's only like fucking and it's way like 7 months into the future, and I probably should be making. But it almost feels like if I make any changes now, especially to the ending of the aesthetics, it'll just be like, ugh, well, now I'm gonna have to change that in like 4 months or whatever. Anyway, sorry. Sorry today, sorry tomorrow. As you guys might have been able to tell, if you follow me on Discord or whatever, or Twitter, I have not finished writing the article. It turned out to be a little bit more like a longer thing than I anticipated. I'm kind of like going through the entire history of Zionism almost, and its relation with Nazism. So it's gonna be a bit of a read, and I'm gonna have to probably be reading that as well to get the audio version on. So I'm hoping to be done with it by Sunday or Saturday, so I can release it on Saturday. No promises. I know I made a lot of promises. And as far as it being a weekly thing, now that I'm like kind of like, okay, I like to write and I like to be as thorough as possible. I know like I know some writers or whatever, when they're talking about a political topic, it's all about the sensational stuff that just happened, like up to date news, got to be the first person to have a take on something. But I think like, my style is a little bit more contemplative, a little bit more introspective. I like to like digest all the facts and get all the context that's available to me, like cuz like I feel like there's just a lot of lazy, and I kind of talked about this last stream, like there's a lot of lazy analysis, like, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. I mean, like, yes, it is the Jews, but that's not the whole truth, right? That's half of the truth. What's the other half, right? Like where's the other half coming from? And I think part of the reason like everyone doesn't know what the fuck's going on is because the CIA has been very successful in kind of like throwing a lot of shit everywhere. Nobody knows like how to sift through all the fucking shit, and I've done a lot of shit sifting, a lot of SAR sift shifting, not shit flinging or poo flinging. I've been sifting through the poo to find the nuggets of gold. And I think like for me personally, when I'm talking about it, it seems so obvious to me since now I've got all the fucking gold out of the shits that I've sifted through in my brain. But now it's like, oh shit, not everyone has those gold nuggets because they didn't go through all the fucking shit that I sifted. And so as I'm writing it, when I'm writing it at first, it's like, oh yeah, it's obvious. Like everyone's gonna know what I'm talking about. But then I'm like, wait, that's kind of a leap. It's like, I could see how it's like A to like, Q instead of like A to B, right? There's a lot of A to Q kind of stuff going on. And I could see like, wait, that's crazy. Like, how are Zionists Nazis? What are you talking about? You can't call everything you hate Nazi. Everything's not Hitler, dude. Blah blah blah. And, I've kind of noticed that when I did my, Walter White is Adolf Hitler video. I guess like when I was posting it, I was posting on Reddit. and I was basically like saying like, hey, watch this video. It's like gonna blow your minds, like, you know. But the fact of the matter was, it was an 80-minute video, and it requires a lot of patience to get through as I watch it again. And it's just like shooting information at you like a fucking fire hose. And so you kind of even have to be a little bit educated about World War II to even like understand what's going on. Wait a second. Why isn't my chat updating? Oh, there it is. And so I think like with the same thing, it's like things that should be so obvious to me, right? Because I've done this research over again, like for the fucking Breaking Bad thing. I've been watching that like over and over again, doing all the research for like almost a year. And so when people were like, you know, dismissing it outright and not even fucking, you know, watching it, being like you're a fucking retard or crazy person. You know, at first I was like annoyed, right? Obviously, because you're like, you worked so hard to make this theory, and you feel like you've hit upon something that's like fucking I don't know. I don't know what the word is. You've hit on something that you feel like every Breaking Bad be like, holy shit, this is awesome. And when you don't get that response, you're like, you know, obviously you're a little upset. And, you know, I'm going to be probably releasing kind of like little shorter videos on my YouTube, kind of like the snippets of that video that are the most compelling of the argument. Because, like, nobody wants to watch through all 80 minutes probably. So then maybe if I get them 3-minute sound bites or, you know, 5-minute sound bites of like the most, like, you know, the chunks or whatever. But I think with this article that I'm writing, presumably I'm going to have an audience that is going to want to put in the effort to either listen to me talk, right? Because they're already kind of like engaged with my other kind of content, my more short form Twitter content, where it's a lot of fucking, you know, it's a lot of very irreverent posting, but there's also nuggets of intelligent posting here and there. And so I think the more, you know, people who want that long form stuff, especially in the era of so much fucking like sound bites and whatever, and it's just kind of like you want to find somebody who's dug through all the fucking SAR slop, the poo fleeing SAR slop, right? And you want somebody, or presumably, so the person who's going to click on that fucking Substack link is going to want to put the effort into, you know, reading the entire thing. And so I'm like, okay, maybe in the Breaking Bad video, like being as detailed, whatever, blah, 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 wasn't the best idea. Or maybe I should have done it in a different way, that it wasn't as detailed up front, and maybe backload the details in case anybody wanted the appendix section or whatever. So in this case, though, I think that people will want the details up front because they're reading it now as well. And it's a different format. So that's why I'm kind of like, all right, let me back up the truck a little bit. Let me let them see the whole thought process behind what I'm thinking, not just, you know, fucking Zionists or Nazis, and that's that, right? Find somebody who's dug through the Slavic, exactly, Asian movement there. That's very good pun. You'll also note that I like puns myself, as if anyone's watched my show, Just Doug, you'll know that Just Doug doesn't just mean, well, originally it was Just Dougie, which was adding another layer to it. It was making Dougie both a verb and a noun, right? Dougie as in me, Dougie, and Dougie as in the verb, which is a reference to the Teach Me How to Dougie as a dance. But it wasn't saying the dance, it was just saying being Doug as a verb. Anyway, even without that, just itself had several meanings as well. It was just as in, was he a fair, just person? Or was he just by himself, just Doug? Or I think there was a third one. It's not coming to me right now. Yeah, something. I don't know. justice, basically. Anyway. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if you guys have been following the news or anything. Apparently, David Tabor was really was like, oh man, I wish Doug was streaming on Wednesday, and then he's not even fucking here. Like, what the fuck's going on with that? It's like, oh, so much crazy shit's going on. I wish he was up streaming or whatever. The noticing definitely does continue. But recently, I guess, like, well, before I get into the main topic, recently I've been kind of seeing some vindication a little bit, not only about the WMAF mind virus, but just like about like the idea of like immigrants being compradors in general, especially like with the Iranian situation, right? Like you have all those feminists, right? Those activists over the past, it's not just even recently, it was like, it's been going on ever since they became independent from the American power structure. But the way that it was kind of going on with the Iranians is you had a whole bunch of liberal feminists, saying, oh, Iran's so oppressive to the women and all this human rights violations, all this yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. It's all this fucking bullshit. Just like some version of what Iran was. And like, all those fucking memes of like, Iran before the revolution and they're all in bikinis or something. It looks like a Western country, like basically women in like hot women in bikinis on beaches. And you're just like, oh, wow. Like now it's this repressive Islamic state or whatever, which is not even true. But that's like the kind of fucking reality the fucking liberal media tries to push. And they've been boosted by these fucking Iranian feminists. But now, like, because of Israel, because of the whole situation for the past 2.5 years or so, people are starting to see how bullshit a lot of this liberal fucking human rights nonsense is. They're like, wait, you guys are just trying to... Wait, Israel just bombed Iran, like, last year, and now we care about them? We just destroyed all of Palestine. Now we care about Muslims now? Like, what? Oh, we care about these Muslims, their human rights? It's like the hypocrisy is just like so apparent. And then this hypocrisy exposes all these fucking feminists talking about fake shit. Now they're like posting pictures of Jenna Ortega, in fucking these Iranian protests as a woman who was like, I guess, killed in the Iranian protests. Just like the propaganda is so fucking obvious now. But they want to manufacture this consent, right? They want to manufacture the consent of the American people to fucking nuke Iran or whatever, because it's Israel's last kind of big threat in the region. But because of this hypocrisy, more and more people are like, wait a second, I've seen this story before. I've seen this story where women of a specific ethnic group just trash their own country to get attention in the media. Where have I seen this before? Oh wait, that crazy MR Asian guy. He was talking about the WMF mind virus. Oh yeah. That guy, I'm getting a lot of vindication, not just with the ICE agent that killed Renee Good, right? That was a few weeks ago. I was just like, and with this new Iranian thing, I'm just like getting fucking vindicated left and right. As someone who's just like, this is how the world works, and it's interesting because I'm refocusing kind of like on the Asian diaspora in terms of like, who am I talking to? Who's my audience? Who am I trying to preach to? Or who am I trying to make my choir? I don't know what the analogy is, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going back to that because that's what, I was doing 5-6 years ago. Das Chol asks, "Hi Doug, have you seen the TV show Warrior? I think you would enjoy it." I actually have seen the TV show. I think I've seen 2 seasons of it. It was pretty good, but it was like okay. It was like all right. Anyway, but I'm noticing, towards the end of last year and this year, not only is it more Asian diaspora people that I'm trying to cater to, but there's, a good amount of English speaking Asian people abroad that's kind of seeing all this shit going on and be like, yeah, I don't know what the hell's up with that. But then I'm connecting with people who are actually Marxists as well, who don't live in China, right? Who live in like the Philippines or Indonesia or Malaysia, I think. And I'm like, yeah, all these countries, right? They've been aligned more so with the West and the United States for the longest time, especially the Philippines, right? Because the Philippines was, they were the SARS of Southeast Asia, right? I'm probably gonna do an article about this at some point, but kind of explaining India and the Philippines as specifically like SAR countries, and why they are SAR countries. But essentially, there are. I mean, like, I was, there's these. I guess like there's these young guys that follow me now that are from the Philippines or whatever, and a lot of them are pretty intelligent, and I'm just kind of like, okay, there are people out there. It's not the whole country that's like full of retards. And I'm happy to see that. And so I just feel like there's a vibe shift that's going on, and I shouldn't be really surprised. I think not only with the Iran thing or whatever, but just in general, everyone's like, all the lies about China and Asian people, especially with the TikTok kind of acquisition. People are like starting to be like, wait a second. They've been telling me China was this China, China, China all the time, all the threat the entire time. But once they gave up TikTok to fucking Larry Ellison and the Zionists, it became like fucking fascist hell almost immediately. They basically did everything they accused China was going to do and worse. So Wi-Fi. And so, when people keep stacking these hypocrisies, they're like, it's funny because like this entire time, I was just kind of like, I'm not doing this for the sake of Chinese people, right? Chinese people in China, they're okay now. They've got it handled. They got a country that works. They're totally fine, right? I'm mostly doing this for other Asian Americans to fucking wake up, right? But at the end of the day, it's like China's also taking care of that themselves just by example, right? I think the big thing that Deng Xiaoping recognized was that why don't we just show them why communism is better, right? Why don't we just, take this time, bide our time, hide our strength, bide our time, right? And instead of being like communism is the way all the time, why don't we just do it and prove it? And so like the proof is kind of doing its work on its own. It's the proof of communism is working in China's interests. And all this to say, hopefully there will be more of an awakening, and hopefully that'll make me redundant and I don't have to sound the alarm bells anymore. But based on some of the stuff I see online, I'm like, there's still a lot of work to go. It's not for Asian people, but there's a lot of people who just fucking want us all to die. So I'm just kind of like keeping my eye on the pulse there. That's right, Andrew. You, Comrade Doug. Get your thorax checked, my guy. Why do your cheeks look so bloated? Do they? Thyroid? Why would do my cheeks look bloated? Wait, is that a thing? I think I'm just fat. I just had a haircut today, so maybe that's it. But I don't know. Do you guys see it? Do you guys see me? Is it more bloated than it was before? Shit, you might be right. No, I don't know. I have cancer. Just kidding. My cousin does have thyroid cancer. It's not a dangerous cancer, but I do think it does cause problems or whatever. So maybe that's it. Maybe I have thyroid cancer. Great, add it to the list. I'm dying. Sup, Fireside? Tartaria? Where's Tartaria? Is that... Where's Tartaria? I don't know. Is it the headphones? Maybe the headphones maybe look... I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I think I was watching Jackson Hinkle's stream a little bit today. Not a stream. I think it was like a recap video. But he had an interesting comment. I think he said something like, for the first time in the past 50 years, apparently, Russia and the United States, they had a long-standing agreement to, I guess, something about nuclear weapons or nuclear proliferation or whatever, and that's expiring in February, like, 5th or something, like next week. So for the first time in 50 years, the United States and Russia will no longer have an agreement. I think it's like some START agreement, START, like one of those non-nuclear, we won't blow each other up kind of agreements. And it ends apparently next week. And so he was saying that, once that ends, it's like Iran could be like, hey, or Russia could be like, hey, you need some nukes, especially, since people might not be aware of this, but it's almost coming upon 4 years. But the Ukraine situation has not still been dealt with, 100%. It's still kind of ongoing, I think. And so, it's an interesting kind of situation that's going on, especially as, like he was speculating, and I kind of sort of agree, is that a lot of this attention about the ICE stuff or whatever, all this crisis domestic stuff in America is meant to kind of take our eyes off the ball a little bit, There's definitely stuff that's heating up in Iran still, and man, I see stupid fucking liberals. You know what annoys me too about fucking, so I'm on Instagram, right? And I lived in New York. I lived in LA. And so inevitably, obviously, I'm going to have a lot of Asian fucking liberals, right? That follow me or that I'm mutuals with. But what fucking annoys me is those fucking mutuals that unfollow me and then keep me as their follower. So I'm fucking watching one of their stupid fucking stories. Stupid fucking bitch stories. And they're talking about, making some sort of equivalence to like what's going on here in fucking Minnesota with what's going on in Iran. I'm like, fuck this retard. What the fuck? And then I look at his following, if he's still following me. I'm like, fuck this guy. He's not even following me. And unfollow him immediately. I'm like so fucking pissed off at people like that. Fuck that guy. But anyway, so I'm seeing shit like that still. So it's like, for us terminally online people, most of the people who follow me right here in the stream, we know that it's all a bunch of bullshit in Iran, right? We know that it's the most obvious color revolution in fucking like color revolution history, right? Like just like the 89 Tiananmen Square, bullshit, Just like every fucking bullshit that happened since that kind of stuff even began. This is like the most obvious one, right? It's like, yeah, Israel just like, tried to destroy its air defense capabilities like 7 months ago. And now all of a sudden, when the craziness is happening in America, all of a sudden there's a, mass protest with that's like all this fucking Mossad agents and like, Elon providing Starlink to fucking the region. It's just like, how retarded are people? But apparently retarded enough to keep spewing that nonsense like that fucking liberal retard, former mutual of mine. And so, it might seem to the tip of the spear, people who follow me, people who are online, people whatever, that things are obvious like this, but to the rest of the country, they might see a war with Iran as like, their consent has already been manufactured, And these are the people that call themselves liberal, whatever. That's why I'm like, all this fucking like, I mean, maybe there's a little black pilled of me, but like, I'm just like, fuck all these liberals who are like, Trump is bringing fascism. See, the ICE raids are all fascist. Like, they're all fucking saying that, but they're not bringing up fucking Israel. Then they're pieces of shit. That's what they fucking are. And that's like 99% of them. Like, they're just using this as an anti-Trump talking point, being like, oh, look what MAGA did. Blah, blah, blah. MAGA's so dumb. Shut the fuck up. Fucking libtards. God. Just fucking hate hypocrisy. There's just so much fucking hypocrisy going on. And, and that's what I think is like kind of like the point of like all this slop, all this shit that's going on is just like the title says of my stream, it's crisis fatigue, right? It's like just to put a bunch of people into like, well, what are we gonna do about it? Oh well, oh well, I guess war with Iran, I guess, whatever. What am I gonna do? The problem with Western Marxism is that Westerners are too soft. This is what I've been... So I recently read... this, Western Marxism. Everyone should read it if you're interested in communist theory. If you're not, that's fine, whatever. But essentially, the argument is such that, like, Lacerda is basically saying that Western Marxism and Eastern Marxism essentially split off during World War I, right? When World War I started, all of the Western Marxists of every some fucking state supported their state, right? The German Marxists supported Germany against England and France and whatever. Same with the British Marxists and French Marxists. And Lenin was like, yo, what the fuck is going on, bro? Like, why are they all nationalists now? Why do they all like fucking support their country? They're supposed to be Marxists, right? These Mensheviks in my own fucking country are supporting the war effort against Germany. Like, what the fuck? We should be realizing that they're all fucking bourgeois, whatever. Like, why are we supporting war now? That's retarded. And so, in Switzerland, Lenin goes into the tank, right? He goes into the Hegelian tank, He reads Science of Logic, Hegel's Science of Logic. I've yet to read that. But this is kind of like Hegel's full dialectical method of like thinking and thought or whatever. And in this new sort of light, he's kind of analyzing Marx's Capital again as well. And he says something to the effect of, you need to really read Hegelian dialectics to really understand Marx's Capital and Marx's kind of dialectical materialism. What he was essentially saying was that Westerners are kind of retarded, okay? They don't think dialectically because they were already in this more privileged sphere of living. Yes, they had bad working conditions, whatever, but the places where they were living were extracting super profits from imperialist areas. So while they did have it bad, obviously compared to the bourgeoisie, the proletariat were having bad conditions, right? They still had it a little bit better than the places that were actually colonized, because those places were not only, being exploited for their labor, like they were exploited more intensely, and they weren't even given fucking even recognition that they were human beings, right? It was essentially slavery that was continued. Just because it ended in fucking 1865 in America doesn't mean slavery ended, period. It just meant that the colonies, it was out of sight, out of mind slavery, right? All 1865 did was end slavery. You didn't shit where you ate anymore, I guess. That was the end of the not shitting where you ate slavery, right? So in 1916, obviously, Lenin, exactly, he goes through a social media detox process. He goes into the tank by himself. He studies science of logic for 6 months. And he writes Imperialism, right? The final stage of capitalism. He was basically saying the reason why World War I was happening was because by the end of the 19th century, everyone had, the entire globe had been taken over, right? Everything had been imperialized. There was no more places to expand to. So if a country and its companies wanted more profit, well, they had to take more territory from some other empire. So England, they had their eye on the Ottoman Empire, right? Because of all the fucking oil in the Middle East that was discovered in 1908 or so. Not only that, they wanted a free route from the Middle East to India, which was their main colony. So getting that territory was really important for Britain. So, and Germany, they were kind of late to the imperialist party themselves. So they wouldn't mind taking some of those territory for themselves as well. In addition to any other colonies that might be in England's purview. Maybe they want to take over India themselves, right? And so, it became this war between all these different factions that wanted more territory for themselves. And that's what pretty much happened after World War I, right? They basically took all of Germany's colonies. They made it pay for the war themselves, right? Reparations to France and England, all this fucking war debt. And so that was kind of the result. And Lenin was pointing this out because he was like, yeah, this is the point of what was happening. And so then because of that, soon afterwards, he starts the Soviet Union, right? He gets enough support, ideologically, that when he goes back to Russia, he wins kind of the majority of the revolutionary support that were kind of we don't want to be in this fucking war anymore. We don't, back then, Germany had much better technology than the Russians. And the Russians, they wanted to pay, or the Russian leadership, they had a lot of debt to France that they wanted to pay off. So France was like, hey, we'll keep paying you. We'll let you pay that off by sending fucking soldiers, throwing soldiers against Germany. So their forces are occupied on two different fronts. So they don't have to fucking, come against us one on one. So it's a 2v1, right? And so while they're spending all their minerals, they're supplying Russia with more minerals and more Vespine gas. But the men are just fucking dying because they've got fucking muskets and shit from the 19th century, while Germany has the fucking machine guns mowing them fucking down. By the end of 2 years, there's been 5 million Russian soldiers dead from the German meat grinder. And so in 1917, that's why everyone's like, fuck this government. We need to get the fuck out of this war. And then Lenin ends up fucking winning support because he's pushing this. We will get the fuck out of the war if we're in power. And they get out of the fucking war. They actually make a treaty with Germany that loses a lot of territory that becomes independent after the war because Germany loses that territory as well. But the point is, Lenin figures it out, right? He figures out what the fuck's going on because the Western Marxists are too fucking soft. They're too privileged. They actually like imperialism, right? Because it benefits them a little bit, right? It might not benefit them like as much as the bourgeoisie that's making a shit ton of money, but it does benefit them by like the super profits do kind of funnel to them, so they have a much better life than the people in the colonies. That's for fucking sure. You know, Ho Chi Minh kind of found that out the hard way because he was like saying like, look, you know, obviously I have a lot of self-interest in fighting for my people in Vietnam. They're being colonized by France. But the French Communist Party, you know, they ignored him, but he was saying, look, if they're extracting super profits from Indochina, sure, you might get a little bit of that cut yourselves here, blah, 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 and may not be that bad for you. But those super profits accumulate as well and increase their own profits, power and profits, so that they will have the superstructure to keep you cucked and destroyed, that you'll never be able to revolt against them. So in essence, it's still in your best interest to also be for the colonies because, you know, through this method, they will have, but they didn't fucking care because they're stupid fucking white people, right? And so, you know, the reason why Chinese Marxism, North Korean Marxism, Vietnamese Marxism, the reason why it's endured is because the Marxists there, or the people there, the revolutionaries in those countries, it wasn't about getting better pay or less work hours or, you know, stupid fucking phrases like communism is free time, like retarded bullshit nonsense like that. It was like communism is a way to not be fucking slaves and live under fascist, like British rule, Japanese rule, or French rule, right? This is the way we get our fucking liberation. This is the way we get our self-respect back. This is the way we gain our sovereignty. So the stakes were so much higher for Asian communists, right? And so this is why the ideology was resonated, because like Mao Zedong saw communism as like, this is the way we break our chains. This is the methodology. Lenin provides a map, a roadmap to gain our own liberation. And so that's why Western Marxism is usually a crock of bullshit nonsense, because like they're soft, right? Most Westerners have benefited from imperialism or neo-imperialism. You know, I'm a Westerner, right? I acknowledge that. Like, due to living in the United States, you do have certain privileges from, you know, neo-colonialism, right? That's just the way the superstructure works. You know, it's kind of like in a gang, right? Or in the mafia. Like it's beneficial, right? Because you get some money, you get a taste. Everyone gets their taste, right? And so you don't want to rat out the fucking mafia because now you're a little bit you benefit from the mafia. But then, you know, and then if you talk against the mafia, they fucking kill you, right? So so there's that. But like, when you think about Western Marxism and you think about the conditions of revolution, right? Like everyone's like, oh, revolution's all around the corner here. Like we're gonna revolt the Second Amendment. We're gonna rise up. Like, oh, fuck ICE. Revolution's gonna have civil war with the Coast Guard, the Minnesota National Guard is gonna rise up, and we're gonna win. And it's just kind of like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, nah. Like, the shit has not hit the fan at all in America. Like, the shit has not hit the fan. Like, people don't understand what shit hitting the fan actually looks like in America. Because America had it so great for what? Hasn't had a war on its soil for, what is it, 1865? And it was on its own, on itself, right? I mean, the last time a foreign power fought on American soil, and I don't consider fucking Pearl Harbor, because that was a military and it was a protectorate at the time, it wasn't even a state. The last time American society was under attack during a war, and obviously 9/11 doesn't count because that was Israel. Or the CIA, take your pick, right? So last time a foreign power enacted some sort of chaos on American soil, when was that, guys? I don't even fucking know. War of 1812? Americans had it too great. Too long. Make America great again, it's been great. Pax Americana. People here do not understand what actual, like, shit hitting the fan is. Like, yes, you'll have some LARPs. You're going to have some LARPs, There I'm getting like, I'm gonna do something about this. I'm gonna, I'm so angry at, this ICE thing. I'm gonna LARP, and, I've seen this fucking tweet from this person with a fucking 22. I'm like, what the fuck are you gonna do with that pea shooter? It's just like a whole bunch of fucking LARPs that are pretending like they're gonna fucking unite and do something about it. And, like, people are calling out, too. Like, they're like, this is a Fed. This is a fucking Fed. Like, there's, like, this video of this guy and be like, that's it, America. We got to team up. We're gonna gather all our weapons together. I'm like, this is the most obvious fucking glowing piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, because the calculus, for revolution to happen, you have to convince a whole lot of people that it's either this or death. Like, life or death, basically. Like, even fucking the American Revolution. It probably was life or death for many people. But they knew that was a propaganda that they had to kind of, like, instigate. Like give me liberty or give me death, right? All this fucking shit during the American Revolution. And that's basically what that was. And, like, even during the Civil War, right, you had people being like, do we want to be a nation that literally has this kind of very abhorrent system in place? Do we want to be a people like that? That was kind of like not a life and death maybe situation for a lot of people, like, materially. But it was like a life or death kind of, like, metaphysical life or death. Like, do we want to exist in a country that does this? Right? And just like I said, the Bolshevik Revolution, that was life or death for a lot of people. They were like, do I want to be in a country that is going to throw me into a German machine gun? Or do I want to try this other, I don't know what this socialism is. I don't know who Marx was. I don't know anything about capitalism or accumulation or whatever theory, but they're telling me no more war. Great, let me join that side, right? And so when you have, the capitalists, they weren't just fucking capitalisming, You know, they weren't just capitalizing this entire time. They've been studying Marx as well. They were like, I know, we got to just make it into this big little Ponzi scheme so everyone's kind of a little bit okay. They're fine. They're like, they might not be a little bit happy. You know, every now and then you might get a school shooter uh, or a discontent person who's going to, bomb whatever, but we can turn that into we can turn that into an industry as well. We could turn that into a psyop as well. You know, it's all controlled sort of chaos that they've kind of judo moved into controlling people and be like, hey, like, it could be worse. It could be worse, right? That's basically how England controlled Ireland, right? In the 1800s, or not controlled Ireland, but controlled the working class in Britain, because they would purposely fucking genocide Irish people, and then be like, it could be worse. You could be in Ireland, right? You could be in Ireland, right? So for the longest time, that's basically what it was with the United States, right? Like, it could be worse. You could be a starving child in Somalia, right? It said that all the time in the 1990s. When I was a kid, you guys remember that? When I was growing up, you know, when you were a kid and you didn't eat your food, you'd be like, well, there are kids in Somalia that are starving. You should eat your food because that could be you. Or you should be grateful for what you have because you could be a kid in Somalia. So no, I don't believe we are anywhere near like a full-on, full-scale civil war. I don't believe that at all. When I say that we're in a civil war, like civil war is coming, what I more mean is like random acts of stochastic violence that are usually state-controlled or state-backed, right? I don't actually mean we're going to be in this full-scale civil war. I'm just going to be like, this is going to be fascism. This is just going to be how fascism materializes through terror and state violence. I mean, we can all be like, oh yeah, there's going to be a civil war, and at the end, the good guys are going to win, and communism will result. I'm like, probably not how it's gonna happen. Anyway, let me just take a read at the comments a little bit here. Russia said there's no timeline for Ukraine. What do you mean by no timeline? Sup NLYP checking in. SARS are checking in. Roaches ruined Hong Kong. Don't remind me. Thought Professor Zhang was one of the real ones, but he's probably CIA fed. I'm thinking back to the pink pussy hat resist era in 2017. Anyone remember? Oh God. See, even back then, you know what my reaction was when Trump got elected in 2016? Actually, it was the same. I don't think I was ever that every presidential election, like I'm trying to remember, like when I was in high school, that was probably the most momentous in my memory. After the Clinton administration, everyone was saying how the Democrat, like Clinton, like basically was handing it off to Al Gore because like he had put in, such a good administration. And then Al Gore just fucks it up by saying he invented the internet and all this other stupid nonsense. I just remember like even that everyone's like, Al Gore is gay. Bush is a real man. That was the extent of our political knowledge in high school. Like, I know, like, these days, because of the internet, I'm sure high school people are a lot more sophisticated in their political knowledge, but that's what we basically said back then. He's so gay. Al Gore is so gay. And then in 2004, I didn't really, care anymore about politics. I was in college. I was at Duke, and I was like, well, looks like the Republicans are a little racist, so whatever. They didn't really like the Democrats. They were kind of gay, and the Republicans are racist. And 22 years later, nothing has changed. 22 years later, my 18-year-old analysis of the political parties are still accurate. The Democrats are a little gay and the Republicans are a little racist. So, not really a fan of either. And then in 2008, when Obama won, right? What happened then? I was in fucking acting school at the time, right? I was starting my acting conservatory stuff. And then 2 years, so that was a 2-year program, but it started in 2008. And so I was meeting these people for the first time. You know, a lot of them were multicultural, so to speak, right? There's a lot of black people, like Hispanic people, whatever. And the whole place was like celebrating, blah, blah, blah. Like, we shall overcome. I was like, the kumbayas were, I mean, no, it wasn't that bad, but it was essentially almost to that kind of ridiculous level of like, and I was thinking to myself, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I wasn't following it at all. I was like, who, what? Obama? What are you fucking talking? Like, I was like, okay, I guess we shall overcome. Well, yes, change is coming. Who knows? Whatever, you know. It was the financial crisis, so I was like, whatever, I don't really fucking care. And then when Trump got elected, you know, the same people around me, I know I wasn't in the same, I was in LA, I remember. So I was a totally different state at that time. But then, you know, I'm still, you know, kind of around the industry and all these liberals, whatever. Everyone's like screaming like the fucking sky is falling and like, and, you know, the pussy hat thing was apparently going on, whatever. But when that happened, I distinctly remember, actually. I was in a Shake Shack in Hollywood, and I see, like, Van Jones on CNN being like, this is a white lash, and all this other stuff. And I was just kind of like, you know what? Let's see what happens, I guess. Who knows? Maybe the fucking, you know, maybe Trump's gonna do something. Who the fuck knows? And then all that pussy's hat stuff started going on, blah, blah, blah. And then 2020, I started paying attention, obviously, because, you know, you were just kind of had to, right? Everyone was locked in. Asians were getting murdered left and right. Andrew Yang was kind of like making things a little interesting. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I will start paying attention. I wasted $100 donating to Bernie Sanders. Fuck my life. It's $100 I'll never get back. Worst $100. I'd rather would have fucking burned that $100 bill. Like, that would have been more entertaining, you know, and caught it on TikTok, made a TikTok video. But yeah, as you all know, I became a Marxist-Leninist soon after that, and I decided it was all fucking bullshit. I basically came to the 12-year-old conclusion again 24 years later. Or so, 25 years. I don't even fucking know. Anyway, all this to say, I don't actually remember the Women's March. I wasn't even fucking paying attention. I mean, the thing I remember about 2017, wasn't that the one where that woman got run over in that far right rally? I remember that was kind of crazy. That was like the crazy moment of Trump. Can you guys imagine that? That was the craziest moment of Trump's presidency, the first presidency. We're not even like you know, halfway through the second presidency, and it's just kind of like every week is there's like something that's more crazier than that. It's like, oh yeah, Charlottesville, exactly. I was just like, ugh, God, what the hell is going on? Now I'm like, ugh, God, what the hell is going on? Every fucking day there's a new thing, right? I've been writing this, you know, the thing that I've been writing. I'm like, I gotta update it now because this fucking crazy shit happened. And I'm like, oh, God, how many times am I gonna fucking have to update it while I'm fucking writing it? It feels like I'm trying to, like, build this rocket ship as it's fucking taking off, you know? Anyway, let's see more comments. Crisis fatigue too. I mean, it's been crisis fatigue ever since the 2020s began, but it's like now dialed up to another fucking level. Lenin enters a social media detox process. Yeah. pretty much. I mean, like, I feel like I've done a similar thing, not that I'm off social media, but I feel like in the past few years, I spent more of a ratio of my total time being conscious, reading actual fucking shit. And I feel like I'm all the better for it. I have much more clarity on the entire situation. Because I feel like if you're just watching every event unfold, yeah, it's going to look like fucking total chaos, And I feel like there's enough people already that do surface level analysis that I can kind of catch up. I don't have to give my own, all the time, because I feel like there's other people who have been doing it longer and whatever. That's why I'm doing these more long form things, because I feel like my specialty isn't just deep seek analysis, Anyway, slavery got outsourced post-Civil War. Yep. After slavery happened, they just hired a bunch of Chinese and Asian people to be coolies, right? They just didn't call it slavery. Just, they called it indentured servitude. They didn't call it that. They just called them coolies, right? And they said, yep, we got rid of slavery. Slavery still exists in Libya. Thanks, Obama. American privilege being the most privileged, especially. No, you don't get it, Doug. It's Stalin's fault. He betrayed the revolution. Yeah. Stalin, yeah. Every Westerner or every Trotskyist is just basically a white supremacist. That's what it is. Like, Trotskyism is left-wing white supremacy, and Nazism is right-wing white supremacy. Because, like, Nazism, right, is kind of like, hey, let's return to the world where whites were on top and we controlled the world. Like, basically the pinnacle of white supremacy was the 19th century, right? That's when colonialism was everywhere. Whites were on top. We conquered the world. We get to kill people. We get to rape people. We get to plunder them whenever we want. And no one can tell us what to do. And that all changed with the Bolshevik Revolution. They were like, the Soviet Union was like, not anymore, you don't. We gonna change things around here. We gonna bring socialism. So Nazism was like, no, we gotta kill these Bolsheviks because they're ruining our fucking white supremacy project. So that's the right wing, because it's conservative, right? It's trying to go back to the original roots of white supremacy, where they had total dominance of imperialism during the 19th century, and that which started kind of like in the 16th century, right? 15th, 16th century, but really wasn't like total dominance until, like, they weren't the most dominant power until pretty much the 18th century, when they were kind of like neck and neck now with India and China, and then they take over India, right? And then they use that power to then take over China in the 19th. So once they take over China, then Korea and Vietnam were on notice as well. And that's why Japan took over Korea, and Vietnam was taken over by France, right? Those were kind of like the last two holdouts of colonialism, besides the scramble for Africa. It's, all that stuff. But essentially, that's what Hitler was proposing. That's why he was very popular, actually. I know, like, revisionists now like to say, oh yeah, everyone hated Hitler. Everyone like blah, blah, blah. Well, the fact of the matter is, he had a lot of fucking support in America. Like, the Republican Party was not opposed to Mr. Hitler, fucking, what's his name? I think President Hoover went to Germany to talk to Mr. Hitler. He had a lot of fans. He had a lot of fans because what he was proposing was like, let's put these fucking Bolsheviks in their place. These, Jewish-controlled Bolsheviks in their place, trying to bring equality to the rest of these fucking Untermenschen, right? Let's get the band back together. Let's get the white supremacist band back together and kill these fucking Soviets. So it was only like when he started becoming more crazy and started attacking France, they were like, England was like, all right, let's reassess the situation here, And Japan was getting a little too big for its britches as well. So they were like, you know what? maybe we need to reevaluate what's going on, right? But it's essentially they were fans of Hitler. That was right wing white supremacy is Nazism. What is left wing white supremacy? That's Trotskyism. That's like saying we actually know what's best because we're the intelligent people. We've been doing this a long time. We've been managing things. Like we're progressive. So we need to tell you non-white people that have been colonies this entire time because of us, and we've been benefiting from it. But we need to tell you what to do because you guys are doing it wrong, see? Like, it's this other kind of like, in a way, it's like this like fucking like pedantic HR fascism, right? It's like this like, we know better than you. We know about human rights. You don't have human rights because you're not human. That's essentially what they're basically saying. Like, your culture is does not support human rights, so obviously you're not human. So that's why we get to go into your country to, destroy your place and teach you how to be human again. Oh, by the way, this oil and stuff, you guys don't know how to manage it yourselves, but we'll take it and we'll manage it for you, and in the future you'll be able to do it yourselves. Not really. We're just gonna pretend. Basically, left wing fucking white supremacy, right? It's basically like white supremacy with a wink and a smile. It's like one day you'll be a free man. It's like if a white person had a slave, right? And said, if you work for 20 years, I'll give you your freedom. And then they do that, right? And then so the guy is free now, but then he's in this situation where there's no fucking, superstructure or infrastructure into whether to make something of himself, and then he just fucking dies. So it's like, oh, whoops, well, I did what I could. I gave you freedom, and I guess you were just not, you don't know about human rights enough to make it happen. That's fucking, basically just white supremacy with extra steps. In a way, I kind of almost prefer like Nazism to Trotskyism because at least they're being fucking honest. They're being straight up. They're being like, you are the Untermenschen. We will make you slaves. And you are bitches, right? Like, that's the fucking Nazism thing. Trotskyism is this fucking like, we know better than you, and we're gonna do all this fucking bullshit because we're better than you, and it's just kind of like, fuck you, you dumb fuck. That's what Trotskyism is. Anyway, let's see. War of 1812. Yeah, exactly. Hello, David. Sup, David Tay? You're finally here. I thought you were raring to have one of my streams, but you came an hour late. What's up with that? Sup, Anna K? What's going on? Obama is from Africa. His wife is a he. Well, his father is from Kenya, but I don't know about his wife being a he thing. I know Kerry was crooked. Oh, I don't even know. I don't even pay attention to Kerry, to be honest. I don't even fucking know. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. What can we? Yes. What can? What is we canning? What can? They never even fucking explain what that was. Yes, we can what? Obama is president, racism is solved. That's basically why the CIA groomed him. Like, they groomed Obama on purpose because they knew the South was just gonna fucking be cucked. If they just put a black candidate up there, they knew that they could control black people. It was that fucking easy. I wasted $40 on Bernie back in 2016. Yeah, exactly. Heather in Charlottesville. Someone gave me a math hat. Make America think harder. Yeah, but then he ended up being a fucking cuck, unfortunately. Andrew Yang. What a disaster. I think I only wasted $20 on Andrew Yang, though, so feel better about that. Victim that got run over. Oh yeah, Heather. Wasting money on Yang Gang. True. I mean, don't feel bad. I feel like a lot of us, especially Asian guys, we fell for the Yang Gang shit nonsense. But whatever. He's just like an idiot. He's just so fucking dumb. That's what I realized about these fucking tech bros. Like they talk like they know what they're talking about, especially about geopolitics, and they're all fucking retarded. Everyone's got their opinion to the point where if I do it, I'm saying I'm preaching to the choir, so I don't bother writing analyses. Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll read mine at NLYP because I feel like I'm bringing something new to the table when I'm writing this stuff. Russia said they will take as long as they want until they achieve their military goals. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, makes sense. Like they don't want fucking Ukraine on their border trying to join NATO and position fucking nukes on the border like an idiot. You should watch Professor lecture on Stalin. He said Stalin poisoned Lenin. That is fucking retarded. Professor Jang is fucking retarded. I hate him now. He's just fucking CIA agent. He was on the cover of Times 1938. Yep. Hitler, man of the year, right? Man of the year. What is the context? What is the context for what? I don't even fucking know what you're talking about. Lib lefties acting a lot like President McKinley wanting to civilize the third world. Yep. I'm mocking Obama, Doug. I mean, everyone's mocking Obama. Yes, we can get a black guy in. Yes, we can get a black Russia-based are Russians honorary Asians. So that's actually kind of like a little interesting. You know, as we all know, Stalin is Georgian, which apparently is kind of like West Asian a little bit. It's not fully Anglo-Saxon or Germanic, right? And Lenin himself was Kalmyk or quarter Kalmyk, which is actually kind of like a more of an Eastern Asian sort of thing. I'm not as 100% sure, but like Finland, like Russia, they're kind of on that Eurasian border, right? Like between Europe and Asia. So it kind of does make sense that they do look a little bit more Asian in general. And the Russian Federation today even is around 20% Asian, right? The places in Kazakhstan, a lot of those stans, the people look very Asian. I think Mongolia especially was part of the Soviet Union as well, for the longest time. And so Russia has had and has a lot of Asians in it. And so that's probably, not an inconsequential reason why Lenin was more Eastern Marxism than Western Marxism. But then on that other point, that's probably why they fell, right? Eventually. Because they, a lot of the Soviet Union, especially the early people, they had a lot of training in the West, right? They had a lot of Western ideas. They had a lot of bourgeois influences from living in the West. Whereas everyone that came up in China, all the Long March OGs, none of them had any exposure to that, right? They all had exposure to Japanese fascism, nationalist Taiwan trying to kill them, like a bunch of scumbag traitors, right? They had the experience of the Korean War, the Vietnam War. They had the experience of the Sino-Soviet split, the border fucking disputes with the Soviet Union. After Khrushchev was basically Trotskyite. I don't really have to give any context for that because you are probably a white person, and so I don't fucking care. And so if you're going to say that it's slander, guess what's going to fucking happen to you guys? Do you guys know what happens to people who say that I'm fucking slandering something or disagrees with me? What happens? What happens to that person? That's what happens. Goodbye. Get the fuck out of here, you dumb fuck. Oh man. Don't you love the dictatorship of the Douglatariat? Imagine coming on my channel and saying that anti-Trotskyism is slander. Imagine trying to come on my fucking channel and talk shit to me. This isn't a fucking democracy. But anyway, Russians are Eurasian, exactly. Yang is a Zio. That was the dumbest thing. You guys remember that? In New York City, the fucking mayor. Like, he had, like, I don't know if he was going to win necessarily, but he had a pretty good, like, chance. Right? Like, Eric Adams was running against him. And, yes, that is, I don't know if you're still here, Solace, but that is the Vietnam flag. I guess people are coming in on the Twitch stream. But yes, that is the Vietnam flag. Anyway, if you want to have me more respond to chat stuff, if you're watching from Twitch, I am usually talking to the YouTube comments. So sorry if I don't get to your question for a long time because I don't really pay attention to that. But maybe I should. I don't even fucking know. Who knows? Anyway, exactly. They're neither too Western or too Eastern. They're kind of in between. Eurasia, right? They're literally in the name, Eurasia. Like, it's like, but that was kind of like, if you think about it dialectically, materially, it kind of makes sense, right? Because they would have the position. I mean, even Stalin and Lenin kind of talk about this, how they advanced Marxism past Marx, right? Because they were in a position to. They existed in a country that was a vast empire that had colonies of itself, but also was in this in-between area where the Western powers were also kind of licking their chops when they're like, especially someplace like Nazi Germany, right? Nazi Germany wanted to turn Russia into its own territory and literally colonize Russia, right? So because they occupied this in-between area, they kind of understood both the Western point of view, the bourgeois ideologies. Like, Marxism is technically a bourgeois ideology. It came from, Marx and Engels, who came from a bourgeois academic tradition. That's just a natural materialist fact. But Russia, because it had access to all that stuff, Lenin had access to that stuff. He was a bourgeois ideologue himself. But they also had access to what was going on in their own country, which was less developed, of course, than the other Western powers. It was still like kind of like a semi-feudal, semi-capitalist economy still at the time. And so they had to kind of like be like, okay, what are the things about Marxism that need to be kind of developed further, right? There was the peasant question, for example, because in Marxist theory, it was all about the proletariat. It was about the proletariat becoming kind of like, united because of the greater information they were exposed to from being proletariat, and that they would naturally see that their exploitation from other capitalists, and that the revolution would proceed from that point. But then in Russia, because there was a large peasantry, the peasantry was most of the fucking people there. He had to kind of be like, all right, so we gotta build this sort of like thing that kind of makes sense for both the peasantry and the proletariat. Obviously, the proletariat is where the dictatorship base comes from, because they are going to be the most advanced of the people, like especially intellectually and especially about what the conditions of capitalism is, et cetera, and theoretically. But we also need to appeal to the peasants, because if we don't, we're not going to win. We're not going to win power. And so these sort of contradictions helped Lenin understand not just the Western Marxism side, because that's what that Marx was peddling on the time. And Marx was actually wrong about his theory, because his theory was that because the proletariat were going to be the most advanced intellectually, that they would realize the exploitation first, and that would cause them to revolt, or the socialism to develop first in the most developed capitalist countries. But in fact, it developed first in Russia, which was neither the most developed capitalist country, but it was not a colony itself. It was kind of in that in-between area. It was almost kind of like the perfect kind of a synthesis of the two systems, so that an ideologue like Lenin could bring that, fucking Western Marxist theory and unite it with kind of like the material conditions of being an Eastern sort of like almost like colony, semi-colony, And so with that, he was also kind of like cognizant of like what was actually going on in the colonies himself. When you read imperialism, the example he provides is the Japanese imperialism of Korea, because at the time he still knew that there was a little bit of like loyalty to people's countries. So he didn't want to bring up like British colonies or French colonies or whatever. So he was like, he was a little smart as a propagandist. He was like, look at what Japan is doing to Korea, huh? That's imperialism. That's colonialism, guys. So he's using an external Japanese example to illustrate what imperialism was all about. That's kind of like why I was attracted to Lenin almost instantly in 2020. I was like, oh, he's the only one that's calling this shit out. He's the only guy in Europe that was calling this shit out. And he was using the Eastern example. He was using the Eastern kind of like what it is to be a colony, what it is to be under this fucking capitalist exploitation under imperialism. And, this is just something that, most non-white people, we just inherently, we don't need Hegelian dialectics to understand this. We've experienced it ourselves, especially Asian Americans, right? We have experienced the negative dialectic of not only racism, but of just being communists, just by, dint of coming from a communist country, right? Or looking like a Chinese person, right? Like we get blamed for being like, Kim Jong-un, like, or people joke that, oh, you're Kim Jong-un, or like, or you're Mao or whatever, not really anymore, but like, people like probably said this a lot, maybe even before I was born or whatever. But I remember like there'd be like the occasional like commie sort of whatever, like implication, especially about Chinese people. So this would cause people like other Asian Americans to be like, oh, fuck those Chinese people. The fuck those I'm not like a dirty, China man who's like working in the factories. I'm like a American who's eating the fucking Burger King just like you guys, So that's how they kind of get Asian Americans to hate on China. Because it's not cool. It wasn't cool to be Chinese back then. It wasn't cool to look Chinese because it was just like you were poor, or you worked in a factory, or all this fucking bullshit. So then that's how they got Asian Americans, even especially Korean Americans, right, to hate on Chinese people. And that's why, like, when I had friends who were Chinese, a lot of the Taiwanese people would be like very fucking like, I don't even know what the word's racist or like classist, but like against mainlanders. And I remember all this. I was like, wait, aren't they like your people? Like, and like, I even have some Chinese friends who like hate on China still to this day. And I'm just kind of like, it's so fucking frustrating because I'm just kind of like, well, that's, I don't know. It's just people don't have the ability to look at things, look at the world objectively, like, and they take their subjective, self-serving, egotistical view out of it and just like look at things from a fucking, an absolute objective perspective. You know what I mean? Like this fucking the last straw Trotskyite in my fucking stream. Like fucking thinking that he was going to come in and fucking be like, oh, I'm talking shit about get the fuck out. This dictatorship of the Dugatariat. Mayor Adams is getting sued for a crypto scam. I am not surprised, but I think he was probably doing a lot more corrupt shit than that, but, you know, whatever. They are not Asian, though. Too much Western influence. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's too weak. People saw through it. No one wants a cuck as leader. That's what I'm saying all the time, too. Like, for the longest time, like, Asians, you know, especially kind of like the cuck, like, took more of, it came from Japan, right? It came from Japan, who, after World War II, they were like, oh, shit. We raped and murdered a lot of people. The Americans are going to come and rape and murder a lot of us in revenge. They actually thought that, the Japanese. They were, like, scared that the Americans were going to actually come and rape and murder. Because of the crimes they did, they thought there was going to be payback. Maybe not. I don't know if they knew if it was going to be from the Americans, but they thought something was going to happen to them. So when the Americans came to, you know, occupy their island, well, A, they were very happy about the Korean War because they were like, phew, heat's off us, guys. We get to so yeah, it's those Korean and those Chinese. They're the bad Asians. We're the oh shit. Got the heat off us. Thanks, Korea. Not only that, the Korean War, obviously, well, South Korea was needed to be rebuilt after, you know, a bajillion bombs blew up everything. And so Japan, that's how they recharged their economy really quickly. But then in the midst of that, you know, in the midst of the American occupation, they were literally just like, kind of like, oh, you want our women? Here's our best women, you know? Just don't kill me. We're giving them up, you know, willingly. They were just literally, they were incubating the WMF mind virus during the American occupation, like 1945 to like 1954. MacArthur is fucking running the country for like 9 years. Literally cucking the entire country, and they're like self-cucking, right? They're like, take our women, don't kill me, right? Anyway, so they kind of started that trend, right? And so any sort of Asian American, that's like the assimilation sort of strategy that existed, right? It's just kind of like, just put your head down, just submit to the white man, and you won't get fucking killed or whatever. And, you know, just stay invisible. Don't, you know, in the Western culture, it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But in Eastern culture, it's the nail that sticks out gets hammered, right? So you don't want to be the nail that sticks out. Just put your head down, do what they say. And so this kind of assimilation strategy has kind of been the norm, right? We don't learn about the fucking Mao Zedong strategy. We don't learn about the Kim Il-sung strategy. We don't learn about the fucking Ho Chi Minh strategy where they're like, oh, you'll kill 10 of us when we kill one of you, but you're gonna get sick of it before we do. That's what Ho Chi Minh said to the French. He was like, you can kill 10 of us, but we'll kill one of you, and you're gonna be the ones that fucking cry uncle because you're a bunch of bitches. That's what Ho Chi Minh said. He was like, you guys are a bunch of fucking bitches. That's what you're, you know, I've been to France before. I've been to your baguette eating fucking baguettes. You know, I've been to your I've seen your Western Marxists. Get the fuck out. I've seen your soft ass baguette Western Marxists. It's like, get that shit out of here. You gotta get the fuck out of my fucking country. That's what fucking Ho Chi Minh said. You know what I mean? But here we follow the Jap. We follow the Jap example. We were like, take our women. We like self-cucked ourselves before we didn't even like we didn't even get cucked. We just like self-cucked, you know, our fucking like First generation assimilationists, fucking Jap assimilationists. That's why you have so many Hapa-looking Japs, right? In Japan still. Why do you think that is? Oh man. Anyway. But yeah. So I'm trying to reverse that, right? I'm like the one man trying to reverse this self-cucking, by spreading the stuff about the WMF mind virus. Even that was like, last decade, 10 years ago. Saying anything like that, what I was saying now, you'd be a fucking heretic. You'd be like cast aside like you were a crazy person. Everyone in the Asian community knew that this was fucking going on, but they'd be like, "Oh no, don't say anything about it." They're all a bunch of fucking cucks in the Asian society. So I'd be like, "Stop being a bunch of fucking cucks. Like, follow the MR Asians of Mao, Ho, and Kim Il Sung." They were like, "Fuck the white man. This is how shit's gonna go down. We make the fucking rules now. We gain our sovereignty. We call the fucking shots. We build the fucking nukes. Get the fuck out." That's the fucking China spirit that I try to emulate every day. Get the fuck out of my face. Fucking last straw 1467 with your Western Marxist Trotskyism. Get the fuck out with your white supremacist leftism. Get the fuck out. Anyway. Sorry, I like to rant. Yes. Maybe I'm a little too amped up today. Let's see some of the stuff. Makes sense. Took an Eastern country to take Marx to the next level. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm not doing this for China's benefit, like I said before. China's already won. China's won. It's over. It's over for capitalism. What's yet to be determined is what happens to America, What's yet to be determined is what happens to America and the people trapped in America still, and the rest of the world that's hostage to these fucking psychopaths in Israel. That's what yet to be determined. China's already won. Okay, it's already fucking finished. It's like socialism has fucking won. It's just the catching up to that fact. What's gonna happen now? What's gonna happen to the rest of us? You know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately for the Soviet Union, they still had a lot of Western Marxists, like I said. And the unfortunate thing is, the good Eastern Marxists, a lot of them were principled, and a lot of them, saw the Nazis for what they were. And they saw it as a life or death, not only for their country, but for the survival of Marxism-Leninism. So a lot of the really talented Marxist-Leninists actually joined the Red Army because they understood it was an existential threat. So unfortunately, a lot of them did die. So the best stock of the Soviet Union, kind of like Hitler somewhat achieved a little bit of that goal. He killed off the best of them. Because the cowards, the ones, the fucking, Western leftists, the fucking glasses wearing, want to save their own hide Marxists, they were the ones who stayed behind in the fucking bureaucrat, and then they were like, oh, well, maybe if we make some deals with the West, they'll just treat us as another Western power, and we can kind of enjoy the spoils of this advanced country we now live in, and since we're on top. And that's basically what Khrushchev was trying to do, right? He was trying to be like, you know what? I like being a ruler, and I like being powerful, and I like being, he was a mediocre fucking piece of shit. He didn't even last, he lasted till 1964, until Brezhnev took over. He was a fucking useless piece of shit. All right, see you in NOYP. But that's Western Marxism for you. Western Marxism is just corruption. It's just like Trotskyite fucking pieces of shit. Left Trotskyism is white supremacist leftism. That's what it is. It's funny how the Judeo-Bolshevik schizos ignore Stalin's hit on Trotsky. Right? I feel like one could make the case that Stalin was also pretty anti-Semitic. I mean, that's what some Jews say too, right? Because they were like, they're the West, especially the Western Jews. They want to make, they want to equivocate Nazi Germany to the Soviet Union. But yeah, he did take out a lot of Jewish people who were in the Soviet government. Not that it was mostly Jews in anyway, but a lot of them were Western leftists. They were Trotskyites because of Western leftist ideas. And a lot of them were also kind of Zionists as well. So unfortunately, they saw the Soviet Union as their helping their Zionist project, which is imperialism at the end of the day. And so, not saying that killing someone because they're Jewish is good, right? I'm not saying that, obviously. But if they're aligned with imperialism, then yeah, you need to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, I guess, And especially if you're a Trotskyite. Because that's the whole thing. Like when they try to make non-white people like sad about the Holocaust, it's like every non-white person has been like, within the past 100 years, we've all been fucking colonized by some Western power, right? Or our ancestors were. And so to be like, oh, you need to be sad about this, was like, nah, you were with y'all. You're part of them. You're part of them, buddy. You're not white just because, a bunch of y'all were killed by. That was white on white crime as far as we're concerned. Right? It's like, why are we so concerned with white on white crime? I mean, not like he gave a shit about anything else about like white on us crime ever. It's like, why are we caring about this? Why should I care about this more than I care about white on me crime? Western imperialism, right? Bureau of Counter WMAF Trotsky Operations. Is that what this is? Is that what my channel is? The Bureau of Counter WMAF Trotskyite Operations. I think it is. I wouldn't be upset if somebody called that this. To be fair, Andrew Yang is Taiwanese, which is the most cuck type of group of China. That's probably true. It's kind of a toss up between Hong Kong people and Taiwanese people. Like some of the Hong Kong protesters are like so cucked looking, but I guess it's because like Hong Kongers are kind of cucked to England, and Taiwanese people are kind of cucked to Japan. So it's a different flavor of cuckitude. Either way. Trotsky, like Mao, wasn't a real Marxist. If he was, they would teach him in school. Exactly. It's like, why would they teach you actual revolutionary stuff in a Western bourgeois institution? Like, that doesn't even fucking make sense. Like, I've been like commenting, or I've seen these Western economists, these liberal economists saying like Marxist theory of labor of value doesn't even make sense anymore. I'm like, it's a moralistic argument, and I'm just kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I see that they have like 200,000 followers. They have like, fucking like a publication that has like, this fancy publication. I'm like, this is the reason I don't go to fucking Western grad school to learn all this shit. I'm fucking Goodwill Hunting this shit on my own, I don't need a fucking Western Trotskyite to tell me anything. Western Marxists think Marxism is means writing means writing an obscure philosophy article about a materials analysis of A24 films and matcha lattes. Speaking of Japs, of all the big three, didn't Japan always have a superior complex predating around the 16th century when they first invaded Joseon and a dossier of atrocities at the end of 19th century? Yeah, I mean, I think they even had you mean inferiority complex. I mean, I think they always saw themselves as like, yeah, they wanted to be China, right? And I think it was more than once that they tried to invade. But yeah, they're the Zionists, the Zionists of Asia, the Zionists. Japan is a Zionist. How does your bro-in-law take it when you talk about the mind virus? I mean, I don't really talk about it to him, but he understands what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that, like, you know, his relationship with my sister is politically motivated or she's not getting like a media opportunity or political position through my brother-in-law. So it's like not relevant to that particular thing. Attritionless, to be fair, Korea, Japan all had superior complex. Yeah, Japan was just a psycho. Most psycho and aggro of the three. Yep. And that's because they didn't have Confucianism. You know? They had Samuraiism. Zen Buddhism. Shintoism. You know? All these kind of self-serving ideologies. That kind of fit into the more Nietzschean sort of ideologies. As Schopenhauer and Nietzsche were Buddhist glazers, so they naturally resonated with that shit, which started more their fascist. We are, you know, our emperor is a god, and we must all serve the god emperor for the glorification of our species. You know, that's that sort of thing. When you really read Imperial Japanese ideology, you're like, yep, they had the same crazy the Nazis did. Maybe even crazier. Maybe even more crazier. Because, like, you know, Hitler was the Fuhrer, but nobody called him a god. I mean, maybe some people thought of him as a god, but, like, literally Japanese people thought the emperor was a god. You know, that's how they presented it. And so, yeah, it was kind of a little fucked up. A little fucked up country. Adding more context. Wait, what? What's adding more context? In addition, Japan was always look at me attitude. China wasn't having any of their adolescent shit. Yeah. China was like, we are the Middle Kingdom. We don't have to. If you come to us, you got to kowtow to us, but we ain't coming to you. You know, they actually had the opportunity to be imperialists themselves. You know, they were exploring or whatever, all the way back in what, 1500s or something like that. They were exploring shit, but they were like, "Now we're good. We don't need anything. You guys are barbarians. You know, we don't need anything you guys are making. So we're just gonna go back home. You know, China, we are the Middle Kingdom. Fuck y'all." They had Sigma energy. China had Sigma energy. It was just these fucking Westerners who are like, oh, my food tastes like shit. I need Indian spices. I need to fucking take it from people. Oh, I need to take these gold from these Aztecs, so I need to just kill all them to take their gold and be greedy and shit. Oh, I like this silk and tea, but I don't make anything of value except for weapons. Let me just fucking drug an entire country to take their silk and tea now. You know. That's the Western model. Just kill people for their stuff. You know. Let's not actually make shit. You know, there's like Westerners are like, "Oh, what are you talking about? We made everything, blah blah blah." And it's like, all you did was make shit to make it easier to take shit from other people. That's all they did. Like, if you think about all their inventions, it's like What were the railroads for? Well, that was to transport goods. Well, where were the goods come from? Well, all the shit we were taking from other people. They weren't making the silk. They weren't making the China. They weren't making. What did they make that people wanted? You know, opium. That's what they made. That's the fucking commodity that they made. What kind? I guess like they did make. I guess medicine. I guess the Western medicine was. I guess the huge advance. I'm not gonna say that they didn't make anything, but it wasn't like to help people. It was just to help the rich people live longer so they can kill people for their stuff more. You know? Even the fucking, television, right? Or the internet or all this fucking communication stuff. It's just to spread their propaganda. It's not to improve our lives. Even social media. Just like it's just to extract more money from the actual businesses doing shit. Is our lives better because Facebook or Instagram or Twitter exists? I'd argue that our lives are considerably worse in the past 25 years from Western inventions, right? Anyway, like the 1990s, I mean, for your younger people, you might not have, but for the older folk, you know what I'm talking about. The 1990s, that was like the fucking, like, I'm not even just being nostalgic. That was like materially better existence. Like maybe the only thing that was better now is probably like maybe the convenience factor of a lot of stuff. But that like kind of also takes away from the human element of all these social interactions that were random, that you'll never kind of like have anymore. The value of those is incalculable. It's not, you can't really calculate that, but it's just like the spontaneity of life is removed. And yeah, you might get your fucking Uber Eats, whatever. You might get things like 20 minutes faster. You might get to another place like 30 minutes faster or whatever. Or you might get your shit, from Amazon a lot easier and faster. But, it just feels like life loses value when you're not with just like interacting with human beings, right? And not only that, it's just kind of like, okay, I guess like maybe some of the healthcare stuff is a little bit better now. What does that fucking matter when the quality of life, like what does it matter like extending your life, a few more years or life expectancy a few more years when quality of life in general has deteriorated? Like the 1990s were great, It's just better overall when income equality is more, because it just means that more people you get to meet more people or whatever. You don't have to like fucking, and it means less people are gonna commit crimes, right? It means that, you're not gonna get killed for just existing, for somebody stealing your shit or whatever. I mean, things are just terrible, like now compared to 30 years ago. Materially, even materially speaking, not just like fucking nostalgic, whatever speaking. I'm talking like materially. Yeah, in StarCraft, you had capitalism always ruins shit, right? Like everyone's like the game companies are trying to make more profit. They're trying to make things bigger, badder, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then what you get are just these like these products that don't have any more life in them, especially in the arts, right? Especially in entertainment. You get these products that are engineered for the highest revenue impact, right? You have all the fucking marketing teams being like, this is the way we get their dopamine cycles going, blah, 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 whatever. but they're not really fun anymore, you know? They don't have a sense of wonder to them. They're just kind of like things to distract you from all the fucking crisis fatigue we're going on. That's what entertainment is now. It's like, oh shit, I don't want to look at the news anymore because the news is making me depressed. So I gotta fucking distract myself with fucking random entertainment that is also not really fulfilling because it's just marketed to, give me instant gratification sort of dopamine hits without like really any fulfillment after I played the game, you know? Like when I played fucking Metal Gear Solid 1, 1998, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. Obviously, nostalgia, rose-colored glasses, and all that other stuff. It's hard for me not to be biased, right? But I would suspect that if I could teleport a 15, 16-year-old self of me today and like play like a top-level game today, and if they were like electrodes hooked up to my brain and the brain of my 15-year-old self back in 1998 or whatever, I would suspect that the happiness levels would be increased for back then. I don't know. It's just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm in a fucking being a fucking unk right now. I don't know. Maybe fucking Wao Ni-chan could put me in my place, being like, you're a fucking unk. I don't know. I guess there's no real way to tell. It's like one of those, like, oh, what if Jordan played LeBron? Who would win? Oh, 1-on-1. Not 1-on-1, but if you put... Because my whole thing is like, look, I'm not saying Jordan is great and like a great individual player or whatever, but I'm saying you put LeBron on those teams, on those 1990s teams, I don't think he's losing either, okay? I don't think he's losing either. Right? But you put Jordan on some of those teams that LeBron played on, he probably wins, obviously, the Dallas Mavericks, right? I mean, that one, I'll admit, LeBron choked on for sure. But, like, you got fucking Wheelchair Wade in 2014, you know? You got fucking, God. You had the fucking Warriors, they assembled the fucking Avengers against you. And then, like, J.R. Smith fucks you up when you're having the best season of your career and your guy leaves. Just, like, every step of the way, there's just, like, disaster after disaster. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going right now. I'm just being unk. I'm an unk. Anyway. Remember that retard WMF blue check article lamenting about how China refused to let in Chi and Eternals? Is that true? And how trailblazers like Simu Liu and Chloe Zhao will continue to leave China for U.S. Trailblazers like Simu Liu. Oh God, who the fuck wrote that? Like, even if I didn't not like Simu right now, even if I were friends with Simu right now, I'd be like, all right, let's fucking calm down. How is Simu Liu a fucking trailblazer? And Chloe Zhao does not have a career anymore because of that movie. I mean, let me see Chloe Zhao's career right now. Yeah. After The Eternals, she directed some stupid indie film that went nowhere. I don't even know what the fuck this is. Tribeca. And then Hamnet. Historical tragedy film. Oh, I guess it made its money back at the box office, maybe? I don't even know. Looks like a flop, though. 43 million. Produced by Spielberg, eh? I guess they tried to revive it, but to no avail. Focus features. I don't know. Okay, whatever. Uh, Pre-PPS, Japan was the first to westernize during the Meiji Administration. They were the first to cuck themselves to Western modernity. I mean, Japan was kind of smart there. I'm not going to say that they weren't. We should have realized that that was probably the way. Especially after the Opium Wars, we're like, okay, maybe we need to learn a thing or two. Maybe not adapt their fucking culture and, you know, knob slob, like, you know, German idealism, right? Maybe not do that and go all the way, but like be like, hey, how'd they make their weapons and shit? You know? Meanwhile, in 2026, China graduate 10 times the engineers. US that even a little bitch like Kyle Kulinski. Who's Kyle Kulinski again? I don't even fucking know who that is. My manager is a Gen X Hong Konger, and he really respects the way of doing servile, hierarchical organizational politics. Very Anglo. It's also very like Jap. Like Japanese fucking companies are very hierarchical and like very stupid. Extend your wagey slop life. Yeah, it's just like so inefficient too. It's just like based on all this fucking face time that's like wasted doing nothing, but like, you know, it's all this fucking bullshit. Like, you know, in my time as a management consultant and like being in like finance stuff, it's all this fucking like, you like cater to your stupid fucking bosses because they got to sell the fucking project to these banks, right? Or whatever. But because of that, you got to get the margins just right. You know, you got to make it look pretty, make the deck look pretty. Like you'll get all these fucking notes about like nonsense. Like you got to use 8 font here and 12 font there and blah, blah, blah. It's all this fucking stupid bullshit. And half of it's just like, feels like you're just doing it because your fucking boss is neurotic and doesn't even know, like, and then the other half of the time the fucking deck is like thrown in the trash and not even looked at all. So you just like spent like your entire weekend doing this shit for nothing. Oh god, I remember working with this guy. He came over from this he was this Indian dude, but he came over from this British bank. And he was like my job manager. He would just like say all the fucking most useless fucking nonsense bullshit. Like the one I'm talking about, like the margins and all this stuff. And I'm like, shut the fuck up in my mind. Funniest thing though is, you know, he was British, right? So he'd be like, you know, one time I think we were out or whatever at a bar or something. It's like, hey man, can I bum a fag? I was like, well, you can't say that here. Can I bum a fag? Anyway, that's my experience with Anglo hierarchical organizational politics, I guess. Can I bum a fag? Anyway, sorry. I don't want to get banned from YouTube. I don't even know if that's going to be a big ban from YouTube. I don't even. I'm using it in the British context, okay? Like they use like the C word all the time so casually. I'm like, Jesus, Brits, like, get some manners. StarCraft. What's StarCraft? Well, you need to educate yourself on what StarCraft is because it's pretty much a requirement for being a Korean male in the 1990s. You needed to know what StarCraft was. Well put. Video games up till 2000 had meaning and value. Yep. Now all art is chained to subscription, reframing, IP protection bullshit. Yeah. And that's what Apple and Amazon realized. You know, I was talking with my screenwriter friend, and we were noticing that while Netflix put in a bid for Warner Brothers, you know, Warner Brothers and Paramount were competing. I mean, Paramount and Netflix were trying to buy out Warner Brothers. The Ellisons were trying to buy it because, you know, they're Oracle and they have a lot of money and they want to be the Zionist propaganda centrosity, whatever. And Netflix wanted it because, you know, they're Netflix and they want to kind of like get some IP on their whatever. But Ivan and I noticed that Amazon and Apple never even entered the mix. And especially Apple, because like Apple's got a lot of money, right? And it seems like it's a lot more aggressive on its media strategy now than Amazon is. And when you watch Apple shows, you're like, oh, this is all original content. There's no like IP here, really. There's no like traditional. So like from the studios or the tech companies' perspective, it's almost like they see these IP things as almost like a distressed asset. You know, it's like Marvel is in the fucking shitter right now. Star Wars is also fucking, Kathleen Kennedy destroyed that franchise. And like, 7 years ago, these were the two of the biggest properties in town. It looked like, people were making memes with Bob Iger and fucking Thanos, like having all the Infinity Stones of IP. But like, if those two IPs can be destroyed, especially in such short time, then Apple's thinking to itself, what the fuck do we need them for? We can build our own IP. We can have Severance. We can have Pluribus. We can have Ted Lasso. We can have all these other things. And not only that, we've got billions of fucking dollars. So even if we take $1 billion loss a year, who the fuck cares? We're just gonna, keep building. And once we have enough of our own library, we don't even need these fucking studios anymore. And so Hollywood's kind of like destroyed itself. But that's what happens with capitalism, right? No Black Myth Wukong. Oh, Black Myth Wukong. I've yet to finish that game. Curry the goat? Curry is not the goat, okay? Get the fucking shit out of here. Get that fucking You want to get a ban too? No, just kidding. I'm not going to ban you for that. Fuck Curry though. He's fucking sucked. After 2016, you know how Aisha Curry is Steph Curry's wife or whatever? After 2016, I got a Cavaliers shirt that said "Bye Aisha" on it. Yeah, I'm petty. I'm petty as shit. Shang-Chi and the 10 WMAFs. I'm not worried about AI in entertainment when the market's already savagely punishing. Yeah, it's over. It's over in entertainment. People don't want to pay their hard-earned money for something they know you spent very little making. Starside Lamau. Israel killed gnarly jerk. I mean, everyone knows that. Lol. Fag also means twig in Brit English. I mean, yeah, that's where it comes from, right? Like faggots were the sticks that they used to burn gay people at the stake, apparently. And so those, that's where it comes from, I guess. And then, a bundle of sticks, right? So that would also apply to a cigarette because, the little tobacco leaves are technically like a stick, right? Really small stick. So that kind of fits the etymological root as well, as I've said before. Anyway, I'm about to end. It's been a couple hours. Unless anyone has any questions or comments, forever hold your peace. I'll hold for the next 10 seconds, 10-15 seconds. Unless, like, I thought David Tay would have some burning questions because he was like, oh man, I wish there was a stream today. I was like, oh okay, I guess he has a lot wants to get off his chest maybe. But no, there's no question coming from, oh, have I been to North Korea? No, it's kind of impossible. Ever since the Otto Warmbier incident in 2017, you get fined as an American citizen if you go there. So you're not actually allowed to go there, but it's from the United States' thing. So yeah, I don't want to like kind of, especially now because of all the fucking ICE thing going on. It's not something I want to fuck with, especially now. But yeah, I didn't even like, I want to go obviously someday, but I don't think that's going to be anytime soon, unfortunately, because of, not that I have any ties anymore to South Korea. I think like my mom took care of that stuff when I was 18, so I wouldn't have to do military service there or anything like that. But um, yeah, you know, being a Korean American is probably one of the least people able to go to North Korea for both American reasons and probably DPRK reasons as well. Similarly, North Koreans are not really allowed to go to South Korea. Even the defectors, they're not really allowed to leave the country unless they're like someone like Yeonmi Park, who's a propagandist for America. You know. Tell me about Bane. Why does he wear the mask? Well, I'm not really a huge Batman fan myself, even though I guess this is the Yellow Knight and maybe thought I was. But, you know, from what I understand from the movie, isn't it like a health related thing? Like if it's kind of like Darth Vader, right? Like he needs that mask to not die because it's like breathing's fucked up in some sort of way, I think. Isn't that the reason? I don't know. Is a South Korean military service a good experience? Well, I would not be able to tell you because, like I said, my mom got me out of it by doing some registry thing when I was 18. I think we went back to Korea when I was like 17 or 18, and then like just to make sure, like we did some registry. I don't even fucking remember. I don't even know. But that's, I think, like to prevent me from, you know, if I ever enter the country, you know, they might have pretext to like, I guess, kidnap me and then make me do military service for like 2 years or whatever. So I did not do that. So I don't know. I could not tell you. I asked my cousin about it recently. So I guess I have two perspectives. One from my dad, who said he was an army medic. I don't know if any of the stories he told me were true, but he said one time it was so cold that he put his hands in a recently deceased cadaver to keep it warm. And I was like, this is, you know, I got to preface this with the fact that from a young age, probably around 8 or 9, whenever my dad would say anything, he would troll me so often that after every single statement he made, I'd ask my mom if that was true or not. So, yeah, I don't know if that's true, but he did say it was a lot longer when he was, you know, back then. I think it would have been in the late 1970s when he would have done his military service. So that was like by the end of the Park Chung-hee era. I think you had to do 2.5 years back then, maybe close to 3. But he never saw action. He was a medic. The Vietnam War was over by then, and so yeah. He doesn't really talk much. He said he played a lot of cards, and they didn't really do much. You know, I think he shot some guns. I think they were American guns. I don't know. So, and then I asked my cousin, who's like around 10 years younger than me or so. 10 to 12 years younger. So he's probably like 30 now, maybe late 20s. I asked him, oh, so like, how is military service for you? And, you know, because he was trying to be I think he's trying to be a pilot, like a commercial airline pilot. So I was like, how is military service for you? Was it like being a Marine in StarCraft? And he was like, no, it's more like being an SCV. So apparently he was in the south side of Korea. And all he was doing was like digging ditches. I was like, that's not even close to the border. What the fuck is the use of that? Yeah, it's like, yeah, they just use us for hard labor. I was like, okay. Well, at least you're doing something productive, I guess. But that kind of sounds like it sucks ass. So it sounds like South Korea is just using people for hard labor. probably to build infrastructure or whatever, which I guess is good in some ways, but it kind of just obviously does suck for the guy doing it because you're not getting really paid for that kind of hard labor. I mean, I guess you're getting paid for like military service, but like that's why there's a lot of tension between men and women in Korea, because like career wise, like they have to lose like 2 years doing kind of like manual labor bullshit. And so like the women, especially in professional kind of areas, now kind of have a little bit of an advantage in that regard. And there's a little bit of tension regarding that, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, I don't really know too much more about that. Do you know if any family relatives live in the north? Well, my grandfather from my father's side, they originally came from a Yangban family in the north, like right near the border. And so by the end of the war, you know, they knew that there was going to be a lot of reforms from communist people from the Soviet Union. So he was like, yo, we got to get the fuck out. And then my great-grandfather apparently was like, I'm too old to start over, so I'm sticking around here. So I don't know anything else about that. I don't know what happened to my great-grandfather. I thought the worst at first, but then I read that the North Korean land reform was actually the most peaceful transition than Vietnam or China. Because I think by the end of the war, it was just kind of like everyone's like, yep, that makes sense. We don't need this land, and I don't need to be a Yangban anymore. You know, just don't kill me. And they kind of like, you know, let the people who are just kind of like whatever go, right? So I'm sure he lived the rest of his life out fine, whatever. I just don't know for sure anything about that. My grandfather came down to Seoul, and that's where he met my father's mother. And both my mom's parents are also from Seoul. So yeah, that's all I know. I don't really know too much. I mean, that's just gonna be the case of anyone in Korea, especially with relatives in the north. You're not gonna know anything about like family history because a lot of shit happened and a lot of people died. A lot of, you know, not just during the Japanese occupation, but during the fucking, you know, they literally tried to erase our entire culture out of existence. They tried to erase our language, you know, trying to make us all Japanese, basically. So a lot of that's kind of like lost, especially if you like in the north, for obvious reasons. So I don't know much more about that. I'm sure I have some distant cousin from that part of my family in the north still, but I would never be able to know without a DNA test / whatever. I don't even fucking know. I barely even know the stuff. Like, my parents don't even talk about much about, like, you know, I guess, well, I never really asked them. I kind of started trying to ask them, but, you know, there's a little bit of a language barrier. And so, like, I guess I was never really interested, but more in the past few years I've been. But, yeah. Nolan's Bane is very different from the Bane in the comics. Oh, is he? I don't know the difference. I don't really read the Bane in the comics. What's the differences? Typical Korean dad. Gnarly shit. Props to your old man. Well, if it's true, I don't know. We'll see if it's. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if I believe that story from a dead lie. Yeah, I didn't really believe it either. My pops was in the ADD for Korea. Basically, Korean DARPA. No. Well, hopefully, he's not gonna kill me. Most Koreans I know think their military service was a total waste of time. Yeah, I mean, if I was digging ditches all day, I'd think it was a waste of time too. Well, it's not a waste of fucking, I guess, the government's time because they get free labor. All right, good night, W. Wallace. All right, that's it for me too. I think that's it. That was a good time. That was a good little. I think that's a good structure. What do you guys think? I think having like a 10-minute thing where people just ask me shit or whatever. I think I'll just try to do that from now on. All right. I'll talk to you guys later on Sunday. Hopefully, I'll have the article out by then, by Saturday, so people will have time to read it or digest it. It's not going to be a requirement to watch my stream, obviously, but please try if it is out by Saturday. All right. Talk to you guys later.